Welcome friends to our channel. We will be analyzing important current events in today's video. First, very important news. China announces renaming of 11 places in Arunachal Pradesh. Why in news? In an attempt to lay claim to areas inside the Indian territory, the Chinese government announced it would standardize the names of 11 places in Arunachal Pradesh. This is Beijing's third such list on Arunachal Pradesh, attempting to rename places by giving them what it calls standardized geographical names. In 2017, the Chinese Ministry of Civilian Affairs put out a similar list of 6 places. Again, in December 2021, released a list of 15 places that it sought to rename. Border dispute in eastern sector of LAC. What is McMahon Line? The disputed boundary in the eastern sector of the India-China border is over the McMahon Line. Representatives of China, India and Tibet in 1913-14 met in Shimla to settle the boundary between Tibet and India, and Tibet and China. During the Shimla conference, Sir Henry McMahon, the then Foreign Secretary of British India, drew up the 550-mile, 890 kilometers, McMahon Line as the border between British India and Tibet. This line was drawn from the eastern border of Bhutan to the Ishurazi Pass on the China-Myanmar border. The dispute between India and China is eastern sector. The McMahon Line moved British control substantially northwards. This agreement ceded Tawang and other Tibetan areas to the Imperial British Empire. Though the Chinese representatives at the meeting initialed the agreement, they subsequently refused to accept it. Subsequently, the Chinese government stated that it does not recognize the illegal McMahon Line. China accuses India of occupying areas in Arunachal, which it calls part of southern Tibet. China claims territory to the south of the McMahon Line, lying in Arunachal Pradesh. China also bases its claims on the historical ties that have existed between the monasteries in Tawang and Lhasa. Indo-China 1962 War and Arunachal Pradesh. The Arunachal Pradesh border, that China claims to be its own territory, is the largest disputed area, covering around 90,000 square kilometers. During the 1962 war, the People's Liberation Army occupied it, but they announced a unilateral ceasefire and withdrew respecting the McMahon Line. However, it has continued to assert its claim over the territory. Nowadays, almost the whole of Arunachal is claimed by China. News summary: China announces renaming of 11 places in Arunachal Pradesh. For the third time in 6 years, China has announced Chinese names for geographical features in Arunachal Pradesh, reiterating its claim to the entire Indian state. The areas that were named included 2 residential areas, 5 mountain peaks and 2 rivers. Why is China giving names to places that are in India? China claims some 90,000 square kilometers of Arunachal Pradesh as its territory. It calls the area Zanyan in the Chinese language and makes repeated references to South Tibet. Chinese maps show Arunachal Pradesh as part of China, and sometimes parenthetically refer to it as so-called Arunachal Pradesh. China makes periodic efforts to underline this unilateral claim to Indian territory. Giving Chinese names to places in Arunachal Pradesh is part of that effort. What does China seek to gain from making these claims? It is a part of the Chinese strategy to assert its territorial claims over Indian territory. As part of this strategy, China routinely issues statements of outrage whenever an Indian dignitary visits Arunachal Pradesh. It did so when the then Vice President Venkaiah Naidu went there to address the State Assembly in October 2021. The first batch of renaming in 2017 had come days after the Dalai Lama visited Arunachal Pradesh. Also, Chinese officials claimed that the standardization was necessary since all names used in southern Tibet were inherited through word of mouth for generations by minority ethnic groups. Hence, these names reflect that China's proposal on the sovereignty claim of the region has a prominent historical, cultural, administrative and jurisdictional, laying aggressive claims to territories on the basis of alleged historical injustices done to China as a part of Beijing's foreign policy playbook. The claim on Taiwan is one such example. Also, consistent efforts are being made by China to change the facts on the ground in several disputed islands in the South China Sea. Next news. What are electoral bonds? The government recently announced the 26th tranche of electoral bond sales to be undertaken over a 10-day window at all authorized branches of the State Bank of India. About electoral bonds: the electoral bond scheme was launched by the Union government in 2018. What is it? It is a bearer instrument, like a promissory note that can be bought by any Indian citizen or company incorporated in India. The citizen or corporate can then donate the same to any eligible political party of his/her choice. The bonds are similar to banknotes that are payable to the bearer on demand and are free of interest. An individual or party is allowed to purchase these bonds digitally or through check. Working EBs are issued, purchased for any value, in multiples of 1,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees and 1 crore rupees. The electoral bonds are available for purchase for 10 days at the beginning of every quarter. SBI is the only bank authorized to sell these bonds. Anonymous cash donations were capped at 2,000 rupees. EBs have a life of only 15 days during which it can be used for making donations to political parties. Eligibility: only political parties registered under Section 29A of the Representation of the People Act, 1951 and which secured not less than 1% of votes polled in the last general election to the House of the People or the Legislative Assembly of the state, are eligible to receive electoral bonds. The bond can be encashed by an eligible political party only through a designated bank account with the authorized bank. The political parties have to disclose the amount to the Election Commission. The electoral bonds will not bear the name of the donor. Next news. CBI's Diamond Jubilee celebrations. Why in news? The Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, inaugurated the Diamond Jubilee celebrations of the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. The Central Bureau of Investigation was established by a resolution of the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India dated 1st of April 1963. What is Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI? It is the premier investigative agency of India. The agency was established in 1963 by the Indian government as a result of the recommendation of the Santanam Committee. CBI is not a statutory body. It derives its power to investigate from the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, 1946. Control. It operates under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, which in turn operated under PMO. However, for investigation of offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act, CBI vests superintendence to the Central Vigilance Commission. Functions. Initially, it was set up to investigate corruption in government departments and public sector undertakings. However, over the years, its jurisdiction has expanded to cover a wide range of cases, including economic offences, cyber crimes, organised crimes, and special crimes. Criticism of CBI. Guided by Pre-Independence Act, the CBI is still guided by DPSA Act 1946, whose provisions hamper the accountability and autonomy of the institutions. In 2013, the Guwahati HC, in a judgment, had termed CBI as unconstitutional as it has no statutory backing. It was later stayed by the Supreme Court. Politically inclined. There have been instances where CBI has been politically biased as it is vulnerable to undue political pressure. During the coal block investigation, the CBI was asked to share the findings with the government. The carrot of post-retirement benefit makes CBI chief prone to towing the lines of incumbent government. The image of a premier investigating agency suffered a serious setback when the Supreme Court of India termed CBI as caged parrot with many masters. Delays in case solving. It shows the inefficiency and inefficacy of this topmost investigating agency of India. Corruption and nepotism. Ex-CBI Director Joginder Singh in his book revealed about the prevalent corruption and nepotism within the agency. Turf War. In 2019, the agency was involved in turf war between its director and its special director. Both had accused each other of corruption and money laundering. News summary: CBI's Diamond Jubilee celebrations. Prime Minister Modi addressed the gathering on the occasion of the Diamond Jubilee celebrations of CBI. He released a postage stamp and commemorative coin marking the Diamond Jubilee celebration year of CBI and also launched the Twitter handle of CBI. Key highlights of the speech delivered by Prime Minister Modi at CBI's Diamond Jubilee celebrations. Corruption is not an ordinary crime. Corruption is not an ordinary crime. It snatches the rights of the poor. It begets many other crimes. Corruption is the biggest obstacle in the path of justice and democracy. Corruption promotes nepotism and a dynastic system which erodes the nation's strength, seriously hampering development. Corruption in the government system hampers democracy, and the first casualty are the dreams of the youth. It does so by killing the talent. Highlighted the steps taken by the government to bring transparency. GeM, Government e-Marketplace, portal has been established. This is to ensure transparency in making purchases in every department of the central government. The Fugitive Economic Offenders Act has so far enabled confiscation of properties worth 20,000 crore belonging to fugitive offenders. Owing to the direct benefit transfers, over 8 crore fake beneficiaries were taken off the list and about 2.25 lakh crore rupees were saved. Interviews were abolished in the Group C and Group D services. Urea-related scams were tackled by neem coating of urea. Prime Minister Modi told the agency that best international practices should be adopted. He stressed the need to eliminate silos between different agencies, study the multinational nature of crime and corruption, and expand the use of forensic science and technological tools in investigations. Thanks friends, and if you are new to our channel, kindly subscribe to our channel.